Hello and welcome to this edition of Coffee Talk. It's episode 41, and we are getting ready for the season to start. That's going to be coming up soon. My name is Trevor Hooth, and I am joined by Nate Kosher. Nate is back after a week off. He abandoned us for an episode there so he could go watch spring training, whatever that means.
Very good
No,
reason.
Nate, happy to have you back, man.
Thank you. Yeah, it was pretty exciting. We kind of decided late in the game going on a spring break trip. So I have some spring training official updates that I saw with my own eyes. Excited to report on those today.
Yeah, so go right ahead. What games did you see? Who'd you
All right.
like?
Yeah, so I went to two games. I figured that was the maximum I could drag my family to slash my family would allow me to attend. So two games. First was the Giants and Guardians. And the Giants, it was interesting, the teams playing which starters or, if it's a split squad or what strategy they were doing. So the Giants were mostly non-starters. The Guardians did start a lot of their starters, but the pitching matchup was Tristan Beck versus Joey Cantillo. And I think both of them were sort of fringe starters last year. They got some starts last year, but I was interested to see how they pitched. Well, the Giants ended up destroying them. Um, but basically, I put a link in our document, Trevor. But before the game, the plan was for Cantillo to try to fill up the strike zone. So he was, one of those times where they talk about something specific, the pitcher's doing that specific thing. So it's not necessarily the outcome doesn't maybe match, what they were trying to do. So if that's the strategy, it's different than they're trying to win the game or he's, working on something. Anyways, he did strike out 9 people. A couple times he looked good, but they lost 11-2, and he gave up quite a few runs. So started slow, gave up a bunch of runs. Then he locked in a little bit and was able to get some strikeouts, and he looked pretty good. He was actually someone I was curious about with drafts this year. And we'll talk more about him later, I think. But they lost. Not that it matters. Um, Also interesting, Bo Naylor hit a bomb. I think he could be a 2 catcher league type person, maybe moving on the threshold of a 1 catcher league. But our guy Emmanuel Classe had a very rough outing, which matches par for the course for me with Coffee Talk. Because when I hyped him up for Cy Young, then he collapsed in the postseason, if you recall. And now I go to see him in real life, and he allowed 3 runs on 4 hits with 1 strikeout, and he threw 27 pitches and was pulled. He didn't even finish the inning, but they put him in the middle of the game. It was not a safe situation. He was hitting 100, but he did not look great. So that was game 1.
All right, so
Second
let's
game I
break
went,
down game one. Let's
yes,
break down game one. How
let's talk
worried
about
are
it.
you about Class A? Are you worried at
Well,
all? I mean, is it just spring training?
I think it's just spring training. I mean, he his velocity was there. He
Hmm.
hit he hit 100 multiple times.
Right.
I think it was an unusual situation for him. They were already behind by a ton. It was, I don't remember, the 5th or 6th inning. I'm not worried about him. I think
Hmm.
just spring training, he wasn't maybe in his normal routine and mindset, and you know,
Yeah. All
little
right, and
rocky.
just working backwards with Bo Naylor here. You say he's viable in a 2 catcher league. You don't like him in single catcher leagues?
I think that he could. I think the potential is there. He did. He's had a nice spring training, and the power when he debuted, I thought the power is something that we got to take a look at.
Hmm.
Um, he hasn't quite gotten there yet, I would say, but he's still young, and I see him on like the precipice of like a 10-team, 12-team league. If you have your starting catcher locked in, he could be in that 12 to 15 range, I think. Um, we just got to see a little bit more from him before making that the case.
I don't think I realized he had a 31% strikeout rate last year.
Yeah, and he did not hit very well, but I mean, he has the power, and like it was
13 home
enticing.
runs. He hit 201. I mean, yeah.
Like in his debut year, he only played 67 games. I have his stats here. And he hit 11 home runs in 67 games. He basically doubled his games last year, but only hit two more home runs. So I still think like he's young enough and talented enough. He could be something, but yeah, I just had kind of forgot about him because his brother had a great season, overshadowed him. Josh Naylor, of course, was traded in the offseason. But yeah, it was something to note. I thought, okay, I got to remember, see how Bo Naylor does.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is another Naylor brother that's in the minor leagues right now. Fun fact.
Oh, I
In the
didn't know
athletic
that.
system, Miles Naylor.
A
Shortstop.
third brother.
Yep, shortstop, power, strikeout issues. So, I mean, runs in the family, I guess. But
So.
all right, and then the last name you mentioned, Joey Cantillo, and that means it is time for everyone's favorite game. Let's pull a random question on Nate that I'm just coming up with in the moment.
All right, here we go.
What was Joey Cantillo's original organization?
You know, I always default to Tigers with these, but I got to think about who did the Guardians make a big trade with?
Probably wouldn't be the Tigers. They don't really trade a
not
whole lot.
not in the division. Oh man, it was probably a deadline deal swap. I
It's
can't
been
remember.
several
I
years.
don't know.
It
Yeah,
has
I
been
don't know.
several years, just to throw that out there. So Joey Cantillo was originally a San Diego Padre. The trade that had Austin Hedges and Gabriel Arias and Owen Miller and Josh Naylor, since we're talking about it.
Okay.
He was a part of that deal. That happened. I'm trying to scroll down and find it. It's been so long. That happened August of 2020. So it was Mike Clevenger, Greg Allen, and a player to be named later for Austin Hedges, Cal Quantrill, Josh Naylor, Gabriel Arias, Joey Cantillo, and Owen Miller.
That's a lot of people in one trade.
There's a lot of players.
Yeah.
There's a lot of players.
Interesting.
So, yeah. So I only know that because I was in on Cantillo Buzz when he was a prospect with the Padres. I'm a little more out heading into this year. So it's interesting to hear your thoughts. Now, is he somebody that you're watching? Is he somebody that you're drafting? Where are you sitting with Joey Cantillo?
Yeah. So after I saw him, and just in the last couple of days, he made the roster, but he did not win the 5th starter spot. So he's going to be he's working out of the bullpen, but the Guardians have officially decided that. So he is a guy that gets strikeouts. And if you look at his minor league stats, the strikeouts are there. Like every level, he has been able to strike people out. Last year, at the end of the year, I think he put together a really nice outing, and he was kind of on my radar at that point for Dynasty. But I would say I'm not drafting him. It's someone maybe that I would monitor on the waiver wire, depending on what happens. If he can move into the rotation, if there's an injury or something. It's not great that he didn't win the 5th spot, but the Guardians are good with pitchers. It's not to say he won't make some spot starts, but probably not someone I'm drafting. But I was glad I got to see him because I've been it's someone I was thinking about before. You've heard the talent, but he hasn't really put it together. That game, it's hard to take too much out of spring training, but there was goods and bads. I'll say that.
Yeah, and that's how it is. I mean, that's how it goes with a lot of these guys. He has some good stuff. For me, Joey Cantillo has some good secondaries. It's about his fastball, in my opinion, from where I stand, because I think, can hover around 92 or, be in that 91, 93 area. I've also seen him be like 88 to 91. So it depends on how that fastball is going to play. And I'm wondering if that holds him more to a relief role than an everyday starter. Just
Yeah.
because there is some inconsistencies there. Like you mentioned, he does get the strikeouts. He does have some good secondary stuff. I mean, you can't really argue the numbers, but in a velocity driven world that we are in right now, if he's not going to be able to consistently, I mean, even you hate that he's below mid 90s, even, but he's a lefty, right? So you get away with that a little more than if you were a righty. That's just
Yep.
nature of the beast. But if he's going to be in that 91 to 93 range, he's going to be a little bit more interesting than if he's going to be sitting in that 89, 90, 91 range.
I do want to say he maybe topped out at like 95. I seem to remember seeing that
Well,
up on the board, but
and there's the
that
relief,
might be
right?
the
Shorter
max.
stints, you can max
Yeah.
out your velocity more than if you're starting.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, the strikeout potential is
Mm-hmm.
interesting if he ever moved into uh, holds and saves monitored, I would say.
He might, but he's kind of in a tough spot right now with the way the Guardians roster is set, and obviously things change. But the way it's sitting right now at the major league level, you have Class A, you have Cade Smith, you have Hunter Gaddis and Paul Sewald, who are probably going to get the bulk of the
Yeah, they
obviously
have a good bullpen.
late inning work. And then you also in the bullpen have Jacob Junis, you have Tristan McKenzie, you have Joey Cantillo. So if you need spot starts, it's not like you're just going to one guy. You have several guys who can be stretched out if you need, but they're just not in the rotation at the moment.
Yeah, and I mean he'd be below the pecking order in the
Mm-hmm,
bullpen. Obviously, Cade Smith was pretty good last year.
mm-hmm.
Class A, no one's going to touch him. And I actually forgot about Paul Sewald. So
Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of an interesting spot for him to be in. His role will dictate a lot, I think, if we're talking fantasy. But he might thrive out of a mid rotation role, like a medium leverage, low leverage type rotation role or bullpen role rather for this year, and then see what happens in future years. All right. Game 2. Who else did you see?
yes, game 2. So I saw the Diamondbacks and Royals. This was a split squad matchup for the Diamondbacks. The Royals, it was most of their starters, but the D-backs starters are playing elsewhere, so it was mostly prospects. The only person I think that you could argue would be a starter is Jake McCarthy. Did play, he started and led off the game, but I was excited about Jordan Lawler, of course. Once I saw Lawler was going to be there, I'm like, all right, this is awesome. I'm going to see it. Ryan Nelson was starting, another guy who was fighting for a rotation spot and who had done pretty well last year. But he did, Nelson, that is, did not do very well. I think they lost. It was similar to the other score. I want to say I could find it, but I want to say it's like 12-1. It was pretty rough. But Lawler made a boneheaded mistake, Trevor, and it made me lose a little faith in him. So he was playing at third. So they're trying him at third,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think we've talked about that before with shortstop and just trying to get him onto the field. Suarez is a starter at third, but I think they're just trying to get him where they can. So the Royals hit one into the outfield, and one run, I think it was a double. One run had scored. The outfielder throws it in, just kind of reacting, cut it off at third, cut the runner off coming from second.
Mm-hmm.
And Lawler's nowhere to be found. Third base just completely open. The ball rolls through, and the Royals score another run. And it was clear he should have been covering third. I don't know what he was doing. I should see if I can find a replay. He must have moved towards second or moved into the outfield, maybe to I don't know what he was doing, but left it way wide open. Huge mistake. Everyone was like, it was apparent. People were like, what's going on? Didn't love that. Because I thought maybe third base down the road could be a home for him. And once again, it's only spring training, but it seemed like a pretty boneheaded mistake. Like in high school, it was like one of those moves where in football, in the NFL, they jump off sides, and you're like, well, that's a high schooler mistake to jump off sides, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
So I didn't love that. It was cool to see him play. He didn't do much with his bat either. So that's my Lawler report.
Keep
Big
in mind he
defensive gaff.
has 7 games at third base as a professional, 1 in 2023 and then 6 in 2024.
That's fair. That is fair.
I mean, not saying anything, but also inexperience is something.
Right. Yes. Obviously, it's not his natural position, and he is inexperienced. But I guess the hype and the prospect prestige, I was hoping
Mm-hmm.
it was going to be amazing. But yeah, hey, mistakes happen. But I did also see Demetrio Chrysantes, which I didn't think he was going to be playing.
Big fan, by the way. Big
Yeah,
fan.
I knew you loved him, and
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to figure out who's even in the dugout with the split squad. I didn't have a program or anything, and you just see all these guys. And there was tons of people I didn't even recognize, but he eventually came out and took over. And I was like, oh, all right, good, this is exciting. So he made a nice defensive play, and he smoked a hit hard, like an infield laser that someone just outstretched and caught it. But he hit the ball hard, sounded good off the bat. It was a couple of slick defensive plays, and I don't even think he's not someone who's going to sniff the big leagues this year.
No.
Maybe not even next year. But
No.
it was awesome to see him play because I think I knew you liked him. You talked about him before. Kind of a average, overpower type, but a good hitter, and he did everything to back up what we've talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
So
he looked
20
really
years old,
good.
you're looking for him in high A this year. Maybe if he excels, he might see double A by the end of the year and then be on a path where he's double A, maybe triple A the following year. But I mean, anything happens once you reach the double A, triple A level. But
Right.
yeah, really good contact skills, covers the zone very well from everything I've been able to see. And just does things that you don't think a young guy should be able to do in terms of making contact, in terms of driving the ball, going with the pitch, not being afraid to use the whole field. And usually, if a player has good hands at the plate, which could mean many things, then I'm going to be super interested. And Croissantes, from everything I can tell, has good hands at the plate. And so I'm a fan, I like you mentioned, and I think I believe in the contact skills. But again, he is not MLB relevant for another couple of years.
No.
Was there anybody else? I think you mentioned Ryan Nelson as well.
Yeah. So Ryan Nelson, just because I'm a Diamondbacks fan, I was obviously
Mm-hmm.
interested in him. He had a rough outing. I found the box scores: 3 innings, 11 hits, 8 earned runs, 1 strikeout, which is rough. And he was auditioning for the fifth rotation spot, which now I
I
think
mean, kind of.
right.
Was there really an audition for
Well,
that spot?
they supposedly the fifth spot was open between him and Brandon Fott and Jordan Montgomery. Supposedly, I think Fott
Interesting.
was expected to be the one, but
Well,
I don't
so
know if they've actually announced it. But when I'm reading, it sounds like it's going to be him.
so the way it looks right now on roster resource, which obviously isn't the final word on anything, but
Yeah, what do they have there?
they have Gallon as the number one, Merrill Kelly at 2, Brandon Fott at 3, Eduardo Rodriguez 4, and Corbin Burns 5, with Jordan Montgomery and Ryan Nelson in the bullpen as long relief and middle inning guy.
Yeah, I mean that is kind of like the other situation with the Guardians, where he could be someone who starts later on. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the Diamondbacks didn't think they were going to get Corbin Burns, so that shook up the
Right.
whole picture. And
Darn.
yeah, right.
Dang it. They're still kicking themselves, I'm sure.
Yeah, shoot, we have to fit Burns into our rotation. But
We have this guy now.
I I was going to say Justin Martinez did make an appearance as advertised through Absolute Gas. I saw 103. I remember specifically for him, he hit 103.
After his
And
extension, did he just like throw money into the crowd too?
I didn't get any money, unfortunately.
Oh, well.
Unfortunately not. But I think he's definitely in the closer mix. They've been kind of coy about, I guess, the roster decisions because they said,
Mhm.
well, Martinez could get save chances, Ginkel could get save chances, um,
Puck probably.
Puck as well. But yeah, he was as good as advertised. And then for the Royals, I said it was mostly the starters. So it was cool. I'd never seen Bobby Witt play,
Mhm.
Vinny P, Sal Perez, who is a huge dude in real life, Salvador Perez. I mean, I knew he was strong and a
Mhm.
slugger, but seeing him in real life was interesting. Um, I don't think I'm trying to think of any Royals prospects of note. None that really jump out. Although,
There's
let's
not a whole
see.
lot of like battles going on for their
No,
roster.
there's
I
not.
mean, the bench spot they were trying to figure out probably between uh, Nick Lofton and a couple other guys. I only know Nick Lofton because I have him on my 30-team keeper league, hoping he's going to make the team.
He
Um,
did play.
yeah,
Yeah, I remember seeing him. Oh, and Biggio. Remember Kevin Biggio?
Biggio was in that race. So
Yeah.
was I want to say Harold Castro. Harold and Willie Castro both on the Tigers at the same time. It was one of the Castros. I just can't remember if it was Harold or Willie. I can't. I'm getting them confused.
So nothing that exciting from them.
Yeah.
Jonathan India had a good game. Witt went
Mhm.
deep.
Of course.
Yeah, and so they were pretty much playing
I got
starters.
Wit. I did one redraft league with who's in a league run by pitcher list writer Carson Picard, and I got Wit third pick, and I was elated.
Oh
Love it.
yeah, that
Love getting Wit third overall.
nice.
And just shameless promotion here. When Justin Martinez signed his 5-year extension, I pretty much said that this year that looks like closer by committee because you have AJ Puck. I didn't mention Ginkel, but that's could be Ginkel as you mentioned. But what they're saying, I think, is that Justin Martinez is the closer of the future. So by next year, it could be his job and solely his job. Um,
Yeah, with
yeah.
giving him the big money and
Mhm.
handing him the keys. Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, we are going to take a quick timeout right now. We return. We are going to jump into drafting pitchers. Last week with Scott Chu was drafting hitters. We're going to talk about some pitchers that are on our radar, some things going on there. But right now, we appreciate you listening. Quick timeout here on Coffee Talk, part of the Pitcher List Podcast Network. And welcome back to Coffee Talk on the Pitcher List Podcast Network. My name is Trevor Hooth. I am joined, of course, by Nate Kosher. We just heard about Nate's spring training excursion. Episode name right there, maybe. Nate's spring training excursion. But what we are going to talk about now is drafting pitchers. We got some good insight from Scott Chu last week. Now we have Nate back, of course, and we want to do the other side of this, right? Pitchers are just as important and even harder to draft because there's no such thing as a pitching prospect, and pitchers get hurt, as we've seen. And any
Yeah,
plan you have for pitchers is going to be thrown out the window in about 5 minutes. So that is
that's
certainly
true.
something that we need to follow along with and definitely talk about. With that being said, Nate,
Yes. So
is there any pitcher? Let's just start here. Is there any pitcher that stands out to you as somebody who I am going after and I want them on my team?
um and we and in our coffee talk range of people, right?
I guess if you'd like to, sure.
Or in general. Should we start
Anyone,
big? Should we start
anyone.
big?
I was thinking anyone,
Okay.
right? The reverse pyramid. We'll start big and then we'll get
There we
more
go.
in depth as time goes.
We're getting deep here. Um yeah, well, I know we've talked about him a ton, but I think I want as much Garrett Crochet stock as I can get this year.
Mhm.
I mean, I think he's going to have a huge year. Absolute stud. Excited to see what he can do. Um, yeah, I think wherever you can get him, you need to get him. Otherwise, everyone's excited about Roki. Well, I think we need to see a little bit just because it's so new. He's on the new team. He's in a new league. I don't know if you saw his debut in the Japan games, but he had a little trouble with control. I think he had 5 walks, and he'll figure it out, I'm sure. But that's the big name. I don't think I'm quite as excited about him as some of these other people
Mhm.
above him. Um, yeah, I guess Crochet is the big one. Obviously, Scooble, if you could get him. Zach Wheeler is
So
sort of,
get good pitchers is the message
yeah.
from Nate here. Absolutely.
Zach Wheeler, I think, gets overlooked a bit because he's boring.
Like
But
good boring though.
yeah, good boring. Just the veteran who's very consistent. He's kind of it's not that exciting.
Hmm.
It's kind of boring, but he just gets the job done day in and day out. And you can lock in a quality start every 5 days. Um, Obviously, there's been some injuries. Garrett Cole um, is one of note, but on the flip side of that, Sandy Alcantara, I think, is back and it's looking like
Hmm.
he's back. So if someone hasn't been paying attention, I think you need to take a flyer on him.
I'll add one
Uh,
name in.
yeah, go for it.
Spencer Schwellenbach, all over him. Want him in any redraft league I'm doing. Got him in the redraft league I was talking about. I also have Crochet. So there's just a lot of, it's a 10-team league, but there's a lot of slots. So it's kind of it plays out a little deeper than 10 teams. Um,
Yeah, I've
but
been hearing good things about him.
I have, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 starting pitching spots, if I just counted correctly. And I have Crochet, I have Bryce Miller, I grabbed Spencer Schwellenbach. I also have Roki because I am who I am. And a few guys that I'm sure we're going to talk about, but I'm all in on Spencer Schwellenbach. He looks like he is primed to become the next top tier pitcher. He looks like he's primed to climb heading into this season. So I would like
Yep.
him wherever I can get him. If I'm in dynasty leagues, I'm trying to buy low, which is impossible because anybody who has him is already super in on him. But he looks like he is raring to go to become a like high tier pitcher. I don't want to say top tier because that puts him in the conversation with Skeens and Scooble and all them. And you can't predict that. They just happen. But I guess you could predict Skeens. He had the stuff. But it looks like he's
Yeah.
going to be a guy who jumps up into one of those top, 2 or 3 tiers if he's not already there and become a household name in terms of fantasy pitchers.
Another one, yes. I think the sky's limits for him, and the Braves, if they can get healthy and put everything together, are looking good. Another one, I think, I don't know if people forgot about him necessarily, but Gavin Williams, sticking with the
Mm-hmm.
Guardians, he did, when he's a rookie, looked really nice. He didn't play much of last season, or he missed maybe the half of the season or something. And
Playing
then
with
when he
injuries,
came,
man.
yeah, when he
I
came
mean,
back,
as a manager, not him. He's playing healthy. You're playing with the injury risk.
right? Yes, when he came back, it wasn't as solid. But if he's healthy, I liked him a lot his rookie year, and it's definitely someone I'm risking a bit, but I will take
Mm-hmm.
that risk. I think he's going to have a good year.
Yeah, I agree. I've been a Gavin Williams guy since he was at East Carolina. To be fair, I have a long track record of liking almost every East Carolina player that comes into the pros. Like it is consistent.
What
If I
is
I
what's
will
the
see a
connection?
guy and be like, I really like that, and I look him up and he went to East Carolina. I mean, this is
That's funny.
Gavin Williams, Connor Norby, Bryant Packard back in the day. There's just been a number of them that I can't even keep track of. Trey Savage, I believe, was an East Carolina person.
So
Uh,
it's not necessarily that you like East Carolina, but you like the player, and then you found out
by default, I
that's where
think
he
I
went.
do. Carson Wisenhunt is another one. Like by
Oh,
default, I think I do like East Carolina, but it's just I seem to like whatever they see in players is what I also see in players. So like they're playing, and I'm like, yeah, that'll play. And then I
oh,
look them up, they're like, oh, East Carolina, they were a
I,
pirate.
I looked up another one here. Jeff Hoffman,
I did
potential
not know
closer for
that.
the Phillies.
I
Yeah.
did not know that. I'm pretty sure, and this is all I needed, but I'm pretty confident that someone once told me Mike Trout was a East Carolina commit.
Oh,
I don't know if that's true or not, but if it is,
stock
it
way up
makes sense, right? No,
for East
um,
Carolina.
but but yeah, no. So that's my East Carolina random connection, I guess. Uh, Okay, so let's look beyond these top guys.
Yeah.
Um, has anyone impressed you? I certainly have names for this question, but has anybody impressed you that you want to take a look at or you want to talk about, or is there anybody who's upside you're buying right now?
Well, I'll start with two of them. Probably this is people know about it, but it just was announced today. I think AJ Smith-Shawver. People
Mhm,
know about him. That's what I meant. Just announced he is going to be in the rotation. He made the rotation. Obviously, the upside is there with him.
mhm,
We've talked about him before. He's the Braves' number 3 prospect on MLB.com. It was kind of they have too many good players situation in Atlanta, and will he break into the
where does he
rotation?
fit in the rotation? And it just
Yes,
it's hard to see.
right, but he did.
Mhm,
Um, a more deeper cut of a name people may not know. Richard Fitz for the
yep,
Red Sox.
agree,
Um,
strong agree. Keep going, but
yeah,
strong agree.
they penciled him into the rotation, which I just heard because they've had some injuries.
In the
He
4 spot too. He's not the 5.
Yeah,
He made it as the
right.
4. There's still competition for the 5 between Quinn Priester and somebody else whose name I can't think of right now.
So he's the number 4 starter. This spring, 2.45 ERA. Last summer, he did debut and he had 1.74 ERA across 20 and 2/3 innings. That's someone you could wait to pick. He's not going to be among the top names. I think you'd
Mhm,
wait, but the upside is there. And
mhm.
I don't think, I mean, no one probably thought he was going to be number 4 starter. I think he was in discussions maybe to potentially be in the rotation, but he solidified it. So that's a name I am interested in and trying to get.
Speaking of interdivision trades, Fitz was traded from the Yankees.
Oh, interesting.
Fun fact: Yankees to the Red Sox. So yes, absolutely agree. And the other name was Sean Newcomb, by the way. The last I saw, I don't know if it's been decided yet, but the fifth
Oh,
starter spot out of the gate was going to be
for
either Quinn
Boston.
Priester or Sean Newcomb for Boston. But absolutely in on Fitz. His strikeout rate was super low last year when he debuted, small sample, and his stuff looks a lot better. So strong agree there. Gonna throw a name in there, ready to get hurt again. Um, Probably gonna always do this. I hope not.
Let's hear
Casey
it.
Mize. Look,
I saw
look,
he's locked into the rotation, right?
he's locked into the rotation. His stuff looks better. And I know we talk about that it can look good in spring training because it's shorter stints, but we also have a lot more data. And from everything I can tell, his stuff looks better. Will that play out? I don't know. But I mean, if it's taken a step forward, then you absolutely have to be an on Mize. He's been another kind of health issue, health risk type of player. But
Yep.
a healthy Mize with the stuff that he showed in spring training is somebody you are going to want on your roster. And I think his spring numbers showed that. Now, I will be the first to tell you to take any spring training stat with a grain of salt. So I can't fully push him, but I'm fully pushing him. If you want the real stud that you can get later in drafts from the Tigers rotation, take Reese Olson. I think you're gonna have to go a little bit higher than
Yeah.
when you're
Yeah.
where you would get
I think
Casey
so
Mize,
too.
but take Reese Olson. That dude was hurt last year, but he is, and I've thought this since he was traded from the Brewers to the Tigers. There's actually a tweet out there that you can find of mine. At one point, I don't remember what year, but I said that there were only 2 pitchers, and this might have been right after the Mize Manning Skubal era. But I said there's only 2 pitchers in the entire Tigers organization who have front end rotation upside: Jackson Jobe and
Hmm.
Reese Olson. I am so far in on Reese Olson and have been for years now, to the point where if he has a full healthy year, he is going to unleash. And I firmly believe he is going to be a fantasy stud and a baseball rotation stud, not to the level of Tarek Skubal. I've I've abandoned that theory, but he is going to be, I think, a strong third pitcher, maybe a soft low end SP2 in that rotation.
Yeah, I mean the Tigers, they could be gearing up for a nice year. Their rotation looks very strong. Haven't even mentioned the obvious. Jackson Jobe is officially in the rotation. Wasn't always the case, right? There was some possibility he was going to start in the minors.
Yeah, Cater Montero might have taken that spot, and he could have. He also is another guy who has good stuff, but he's just inconsistent with it. And he was optioned down, and that officially made um, Jackson Jobe part of the Tigers rotation. So here is my question for you, though. He did not have the same type of swing and miss that you would expect from him. Does that worry you for Jackson Jobe in the rotation?
Yeah, I was reading about that. Um, you're talking about it in spring training, how he did.
Yep.
Yeah, that does worry me a little bit because we were expecting big things from him, and maybe it's because Paul Skeens has raised the ceiling so high for these rookie pitchers and expectations. Um, he wasn't quite as sharp as we thought, and yeah, I was reading about that as well. Um, the numbers weren't there, so I guess that does worry me a little bit. I don't know what your take as a Tigers fan is, but the upside is still above nearly any pitcher, I think. Um, but
I think you do know what my take as a Tigers fan is.
okay, are you worried at all? Worried about
No,
it?
not even
Okay.
a little. Look, it's the same argument for when I talk about trying to trade Bobby Miller in my dynasty leagues, and I'm ready to trade him for pennies on the dollar. And every single person who I talk to, and every single article that I read, in some way or another, said the stuff is too good not to work.
Yeah. Right.
Same concept, right? Jackson Jobe's stuff is so good. He has that 3,000 plus RPM breaking pitch. He has a fastball that's data backed and, has good velocity behind it. He added 2 pitches just for fun, I guess. But he has such good stuff. It has to play. It has to. So I think what you're looking at, and I think Nick Pollock has said something along these lines too. But I think what you're looking at is the same jump that a high school pitcher makes from their first professional year to their second professional year. And that is learning how to use your pitches. So when you're coming out of high school as a high school pitcher, you have probably a mid 90s or higher fastball
Mm-hmm.
and probably a just a nasty breaking ball. So against high school hitters, you don't have to know anything else. You can just grip it and rip it, basically.
Yeah.
So you have to learn how to pitch to
Just
professional hitters
gas
because
right by him.
once you get to the professional ranks, you have college hitters who can hit gas and a nasty breaking ball, right? You need some more finesse in order for you to be good. Jackson Jobe struggled early on in his first professional season. All of a sudden, he starts to take off. It's the same jump. MLB hitters are a different breed. They are good. They are better than good. Even the bad ones are better than good,
Yeah.
right? Even the bad MLB hitters who you're like, this dude sucks, is an elite hitter in one way or another.
Right.
So what Jackson Jobe has to do is learn how to play against that. He has the stuff to do it. He has excellent guidance with Chris Fetter as the pitching coach, who has done phenomenal things with the organization. He has a guy like Tarek Skubal. He has a guy like Jack Flaherty, guys who have had success at the level. There is everything there for him to succeed. And so what you're looking at is, okay, instead of, how do I tweak my pitch usage? How do I tweak my approach to hitters so I can be successful? He absolutely has the stuff to do it. Also, spring training is weird. So I'm not worried about the low whiff rate. I know it seems worrisome, especially because he's his top prospect and he has the loud stuff, but I think
Mm-hmm.
there's an element of learning how to use it against the best hitters in the world rather than just learning how to use it against really, really good professional hitters.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. And most of, if not all of these guys we're talking about are very young,
Mhm.
still figuring things out in their career, especially a young pitcher. There is a big learning curve, even if you're excellent. So yeah, I mean, I would still draft Job over anyone in the Tigers rotation. Well, maybe not Skubal, maybe not Olson, but over Casey Mize and
Jack Flaherty.
Jack Flaherty. That's the other one. Thank you.
I think I'd take Flaherty over Job. I'm gonna be
Just
honest.
based with
I
last year's
well, I
success.
guess it depends where the ADPs are. I would definitely follow the ADPs, but I don't know. I feel like
Flaherty was pretty good. I mean, it's a good
in
problem to
a
have.
redraft league, I'm taking the established starter over the I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm not, but I would advise you to take the established
Right.
starter over the question mark. Just
Okay.
because you kind of know what you can get versus you're playing with upside because rookies struggle even if they're really good.
I looked up NFC ADP.
Mm-hmm.
Flaherty 145. He's the 52nd overall pitcher. Job comes in at the 98th overall pitcher at 261. One above him, Reese Olson. So that's interesting.
So there you go, right?
That seems low for Olson, doesn't it?
Not really. I mean, injuries last year and
relievers are mixed into this list, so that's a little misleading.
yeah, I mean, still, he was hurt last year. He hasn't fully broken out, but he has the traits too, and I believe he will. I also very firmly believe, Nate, that we're going to take a quick time out right now. When we come back, we're going to talk some more pitchers and where to draft them. This is, of course, Coffee Talk, part of the Pitcherless Podcast Network. And welcome back to Coffee Talk on the Pitcherless Podcast Network. My name is Trevor Hooth, of course, joined by Nate Kosher. We're talking pitchers today, everyone's favorite, at least here at Pitcher List. We are, I don't know, paid to say that. I don't have to say that. Who knows?
It's an unwritten rule. It's like an unwritten rule of baseball.
So what we want to dive into right now, we actually just talked about a couple of them in Reese Olson and Jackson Job, but pitchers beyond ADP 250. That's how we're going to close out today's show, Nate. Now, I don't know how much you have looked into this, but are there any pitchers beyond this ADP that you are locked into?
Yes. And this is a mix of excitement for prospects and then old standbys who could be something. So on this list, Kumar Rocker, who also has had a bad spring.
Mm-hmm.
He has an ADP of 302. We've talked about him enough, and he's shown enough that is someone who should be on your radar. And
did you see his most recent spring training outing? So sorry to just jump in here, but have you seen any of it?
I didn't see his latest one, no. And
oh my gosh.
I haven't. I was going to ask you if you'd heard
keep talking.
I'm going to him.
I have not, but you keep talking. I'm going to find and send you the compilation of his 8 strikeouts over 4.1 innings, I think, and I want you to watch them and live react on our podcast because, dude.
So I will wait for that. But what I was going to say is his numbers hadn't been great, and Leiter actually, Jack Leiter, that is, his numbers were better. But both of these guys are big names, someone we're watching. I still think Rocker is the one to draft. And as I said, he's around, he's 302. So upside is there. I would get your established starters first. Then as you move into, okay, am I going for upside or boringness, like the Zach Wheelers, mid-range, people who, not as good as Zach Wheeler, but you know what I'm trying to say. Rocker's one of those who's going to have high upside, high strikeouts, could have a big year. Let's see. Okay.
I agree. I just sent it to him, and this is a compilation of the 8 strikeouts that he got. It's nuts. Look specifically at the hitters.
Oh, this is where I was. Sorry, I'm distracted. I saw Surprise Arizona. So the Royals and Rangers share a stadium.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I saw the game. Okay, now I'm going to watch the hitters.
Okay, so the thing with Rocker and the thing with Leiter, they both should have rotation spots, it seems like, with the Rangers. Leiter hit 100 on 4 consecutive pitches, topped out at 101, and it seems like his stuff has taken a step forward. He was a stuff demon at Vandy, and then it seemed like it kind of backed up once he made the pros. Um, and Rocker, the thing with him is that he just wears his full season.
Yeah.
Where is Rocker's full season, right? So you're worried about longevity. Sorry, I'm laughing because you're laughing at these hitters as they're trying to hit Kumar Rocker. But you're worried about longevity with him, and that's been my main thing. I'm still going after him, absolutely. But can he do a full season?
Right.
So
Yeah.
what
What's
Nate's
the full
watching
workload?
currently, just to throw this out there, and I talked about this on First Pitch Podcast, which if you have not listened to, I do weekends now on First Pitch Podcast, a daily morning podcast. During the
Check it
week,
out.
you'll hear Jake Crumpler. Make sure to check that out. Again, I'm on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Jake Crumpler does Monday through Thursday. It's like 15, 20 minutes. We drop it every morning. Anyway, when the night that this happened, I was explaining on that podcast, I saw, I think, 2 of the 8 swings where a hitter wasn't on a knee, a hitter wasn't backing out, a hitter didn't look foolish.
Yeah. I was just gonna the one I laughed at, the very last strikeout, the guy, I don't know who it is, actually looks like he's golfing. His back
Yeah.
comes so low, and it's such an ugly swing, and his knee's
Yeah.
practically in the ground. Nasty, nasty stuff.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
again, where is his longevity, right? So that's your big question with Kumar Rockers. He hasn't really thrown a full season. But he has absolutely great stuff. And of course, he's going to forever be bugged by the fact that he didn't sign with the Mets in the first round because of his shoulder thing. He had to take this time off.
Yeah.
And so there were medical questions from the jump. But he has thrown no more than 36 innings in a season, and that was last year.
Yeah, that's not much of a track record.
Mm-hmm.
You see the flashes of stuff though, and it's like you think about what that could be, and it's just very intriguing.
Yeah. Another guy that I mentioned on First Pitch Podcast, just to transition here to another pitcher. We'll stay in the state of Texas, though. Hayden Wesneski. He is
Yes.
currently going ADP about 433. He is locked into, at least for right now, until maybe injuries pitchers come back, but it looks like a few other guys are going to be out longer than they think. But he's currently locked in their rotation, number 5 starter. It was kind of known he was going to get that job all spring. Really good sweeper, really questionable fastball. But I look at what the Astros did for Yusei Kikuchi for the second half of last year. And then I look at Hayden Wesneski. They've gotten to work with him. Obviously, he was in the Kyle Tucker trade. And so they've had him. And the first thing you read is that they already know a few adjustments that they want to make with him. Like his spring numbers aren't great, so I might eat crow here. But I really think that with the Astros' help and with the Astros' track record of helping pitchers, that Wesneski can take a fairly large step forward and be a better return on investment than 433 ADP.
Yeah, and I actually want to give you your props because last fall I remember we talked about maybe it was when the Kyle Tucker trade happened. So not the fall, but the winter, whenever that was. I remember you highlighting Wesneski as someone to remember, and that he could make some noise. And at that time, it wasn't known he was going to make the rotation. So good call there, Trevor, because he is in the rotation and he has shown stuff before. He came up with the Cubs, right? He was on the Cubs before that. Yeah,
he did. And before that, he was with the Yankees.
So I think that was a good call. And yeah, definitely the value that you could get from him would be much higher than that draft slot.
Theoretically, I mean, he may go and blow up. Who knows? But I really do see it there.
Yeah.
And I've put my money where real money. I put my money where my mouth is. My 30-team keeper that I mention a lot. I actually traded away MLB assets for prospects because I could get more money for the auction. That way, I could spend whatever money I needed on him. And I spent a lot of my auction money on him. Because I thought I saw him as a potential keeper after this year. Now I could be wrong again, but I'm not just saying this for content. Like I am actively living this out. I am going after Wesneski as someone who I think is going to be good.
Well, I mean, you can't have a bigger endorsement than that when you when you've made the real trade, right?
And it worked. I have him. He's on my team, and now we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right. Is there anybody else past ADP 250 that you are going to tell people to go after?
Yeah, I have another deep name. This is in the 400 range. I'm not sure if we've talked about him or not, but Sean Burke,
Yes.
with the White Sox, and he's named their opening day starter. I don't know if you saw that. Very small track record last year. He started 3 games and went 2-0 with a 1.42, but he got the nod for the White Sox. And I think what we're all hoping and thinking is, hey, could this be Crochet 2.0?
No.
The young guy thrown in, and he's not that good. But the opportunity, what I mean by that is like the opportunity is there. Now he's the opening day starter, and I don't think many people expected that. So the White Sox are going
No,
to
it
be
was expected to be
terrible.
Davis Martin.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And then didn't they get they got what's his name? Martin Perez.
Yeah.
The boring veteran, like prototype that I was talking about. But anyways,
They said, "Oh, we need to fill this rotation out, huh?"
yeah, we need someone to send out there. Just because he was named the opening day starter, that caught my eye. He's young. Maybe someone you're not drafting unless it's a very deep league, but I would keep my eye on him, see what he does. Potentially a streaming option. Maybe the White Sox will be a little bit better than they were last year. We'll see what could happen.
So, just Sean Burke didn't make my top 20 prospects for the White Sox. He was just outside. He was at the 21, 22 range, whatever. That apparently was wrong. And I think I'm willing to admit it was wrong. And the
it's a
more
short
I've
track
seen,
record, to be
right?
fair to you.
But the more that I've seen of him, the more I see something. There's still command issues, and that's what originally held him off that top 20. Just to answer that question of, well, why are you so dumb, Trevor? It was the command questions. Like, I didn't know if he's gonna be able to throw enough strikes, but he has some pretty good stuff. And so it's not Garrett Crochet 2.0, but it's also not unheralded, unheard of guy who is going to do nothing. I
Yeah.
think that's a very large gap in between. So this isn't exactly going out on a ledge, but it's somewhere in between. And I think what you're looking at is a guy who could show something this year that makes you believe in the next year.
Mm-hmm.
He's a guy who
Yeah,
I've spec added in a couple
that's a good
dynasty
point.
leagues, but it's not Garrett Crochet 2.0. I can't be more emphatic about that, but it's not nothing. And I think the fact that he got the opening day start says a lot about what the White Sox think of him, which could be an insult, but it also could mean he's going to be better than I think we think he is. And
Yeah.
that's especially when you have Davis Martin, who was expected to be the opening day starter, who has more of a track record and has done okay. He has a nasty kick change. But I think Burke's stuff is good, and I think Burke has a chance to be a pretty good pitcher and potentially a pretty good fantasy pitcher this year.
Yeah. I mean, it's just interesting, the names that pop up as spring training progresses. So
Got to throw
he
another
would,
one out?
he was my last one. So go
Yeah.
ahead.
All right, my last one. I'll give one more. Royals, Chris Bubich.
Ooh, nice.
So lefty, my friend Reese White has been a Chris Bubich fan forever, and by ever I mean literally forever. Was in on him as a prospect, thought he was going to be great. One of my early pitcher list articles was the GIF breakdown of Chris Bubich's debut,
Oh, funny.
and he has had an interesting career. I mean, injuries have been mixed in. I think he was a bullpen arm last year, but they have come out and said that he is a rotation arm. So they are going to continue to work him out of their rotation. And that makes him pretty interesting because he has good stuff and he's gotten major league innings under his belt at this point. It looks like he's going to slot in the back. Roster Resource has him as SP4 in front of Michael Lorenzen, but he has major league innings under his belt now. He's 27. Will turn 28 in August. But not that many starts. He's pitched in 97 games, 355 innings. 60 of those games have been starts. So now that he's back in the bullpen, it's certainly going to be a little bit more interesting. As a reliever last year, 30 innings, he had an 11.57 K per nine and a 1.48 walk per nine.
Oh, that's pretty good.
And the walks are where he's dropped a lot in his early seasons before he, obviously the low walk rates come in 16 and 30 inning seasons. I'm not going to go out there and say that he's figured something out, but in the early seasons, his walk rate was like 4 point something. And in those short stints, the last couple of years, they've been 1 point something. So if he can keep filling up the zone, he has some decent stuff and obviously can get some strikeouts, and he could be a sneaky good pitcher just because of the experience that he has as a, as a major league pitcher versus going back to the rotation now.
And entering that kind of prime age range, also. So 27, 28, guys are usually they top out, at those ages. So yeah, that's a good one.
Thank you. Yeah, I try.
I forgot to mention, I saw Seth Lugo start for the Royals, who had a pretty good year last year. I actually don't think he'll do quite as good this year. Former converted reliever, but yeah, it was like, well, that's kind of a big name to watch in spring training. He's an actual starter. So
absolutely. All right. So with that, there's no defend yourself this week. I haven't made any wild trades, although I'm working on it. I'm in talks. I may be trading for a broken Jared Jones. Who knows? But we'll see what happens. Stay tuned next week. See if I do it.
Fingers crossed.
We'll see, right? I don't know. I may balk at it. It's hard. I mean, if he's going to get TJ, I almost have to wait to see for that news. But the other manager clearly doesn't want to do that because he can still get higher value before that gets announced. Either way, doesn't matter. We will have coffee talk next week. We'll see if there's any trades to talk about. I have some other ones up in the air as well. But no defend yourself this week is the point. But thank you guys for listening. Make sure to share our podcast if you like it. And we want to keep it growing. Listen to First Pitch Podcast. Again, daily morning podcast to help you out. You'll have news. You'll have reactions to games. All
check
that
us out on
stuff.
YouTube too.
Oh, yes. Check Coffee Talk
out
on YouTube. All
these are up on YouTube now.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see what our faces look like while we're doing this. If that's interesting to you. I don't know. You can see my record wall behind me. I got a bunch. Let me just duck out of the way. Anyway, appreciate you guys listening. I don't think we can stretch this thing out anymore. We'll be back next week. This has been episode 41 of Coffee Talk on the Pitcher List Podcast Network.